Welcome to As Fresh as It Gets, the show where we take you behind the scenes to meet the amazing growers, farmers, food producers in San Mateo County. And one of the key people helping our growers is with us today, Jess Brown, Executive Director of the San Mateo County Farm Bureau. Jess, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. And of course, our two organizations partner on the As Fresh as It Gets program with the wonderful financial support of the San Mateo County Agriculture Group. Jess, I think the first crop people think of in San Mateo County tends to be Brussels sprouts. Now, from what I understand, they may be the top vegetable in value, but they're not necessarily the top product. Is that right?
Yeah, they're not the top crop. They were historically, and I think that's why people think of them as identified with San Mateo County. But the potted plants are really the top crop. But what's interesting about Brussels sprouts is it's increasing in value. I mean, there was a $4 million jump from 14 to 15 in value. And that's all about is the demand by the consumers. When we would do tours, say 30 years ago with consumers, if you had a group of 20, there may be, you'd say, how many like Brussels sprouts? And two would raise their hand. Now you bring in a group of 20 and two may not raise their hands. And a lot of that has to do with the chefs creating new types of recipes, so people are experiencing them differently. Also, in the past, some of the Brussels sprouts that we may have eaten that are, for those of us in this age group, were really not good because they were bred to ship, and so the flavor was taken out of them. Now they've got the flavor back in. Chefs are doing creative things. The Food Channel's doing a lot of things, and so it's hard to keep up with the demand.
I believe it. I love them. I can't get enough of them, but I do remember as a kid thinking they were terrible.
And did you not eat them for a while and then?
I didn't eat them ever as a child.
Yeah, okay, see, that's your perfect example of what's happened. Yeah.
And the flavor in them, and now you'll see them shaved. I mean, I sound like Forrest Gump. You got your shaved Brussels sprouts, you got your had Brussels sprouts, but they're amazing, and that's interesting, the demand from the restaurants.
Well, you know, when you go to certain types of restaurants nowadays, it's hard not to find Brussels sprouts.
Exactly, and we love that.
Yeah, we really do.
Do you know offhand which grower is our top producer of Brussels sprouts in San Mateo County?
I'm relatively new in this, and I don't know. I would think Leah may be one of the top ones, but I'm not quite sure who is.
I would think. I know he certainly grows a lot of them. And they're a tough crop in terms of just pests, right? Keeping the pests away.
Yeah, they are a tough crop, and because they're a small crop from a national perspective, there isn't a lot of money put forth to research and to do for pest control. So the growers have kind of been burdened with finding that out themselves, and they've done a good job. I mean, they're much more sustainable than they might have been 30 years ago.
Yes, okay. Now let me ask you a question just out of left field, no pun intended. When you go to a farmer's market or even some grocery stores, they sell the Brussels sprouts that have been cut off the stalk,
right?
And then they sell them on the stalk,
right?
What's your opinion?
Well, I mean, if you're a really good chef and you want to keep them around a little bit longer, buy it on the stalk.
Right.
They'll keep longer. And then if you're the type of person that just buys enough for a meal, you don't have to buy them on the stalk.
Well, the other issue with the stock is if you're a big Brussels sprout eater, you're not getting as many of them,
right?
You're not so you need a lot of stalks, and you don't have the refrigerator space.
But the main thing is just eat Brussels sprouts.
There you go. That's right.
And the other thing about Brussels sprouts is, it must be 25, 30 years ago, the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk had a Brussels sprout festival. And it got a lot of national attention, but again, back then, people weren't eating them like they do now, and they had a mascot. It was really a lot of fun, but it wasn't as popular. I keep thinking now if somebody brought that back, it might be very popular.
That's pretty funny. I just want to ask you quickly before we go to a couple of clips, what do you think is the biggest challenge for our growers today?
The biggest challenge, two things, especially on the coast side here in San Mateo, is labor. And labor is a big issue for everybody. It's not just the agriculture community, but because San Mateo County is really one of the most expensive places to live in the country, housing is such a big factor, and so there is a labor shortage occurring, and so that's a real challenge. Also, water. There's a lot of things being done locally to make sure that is addressed, but those two issues are the major issues.
Right. Although I hope this last year's rains helped a little bit,
it's
right?
It's amazing when you look at how much rain was a normal year and how little that they had, and this has really been helpful.
Wow. And so you're talking about labor and the price of the area. we're going to look at a clip of a very novel farm. I don't know if you've had a chance to visit Potrero Nuevo.
Yes.
In unincorporated San Mateo County. So let's take a look at their operation. We are at the beautiful Potrero Nuevo Farm with owner Bill Laven. I cannot believe the gorgeous setting, as I mentioned to you. It's incredible. And you have how many acres here?
We have 300 acres. So it's a rectangle that's about a ½ mile by 3/4 mile.
And you've been here since 2008, you said?
Yes, we bought it in January of '08, and we actually got plants in the ground that first year, and we're in the Half Moon Bay market the first year.
How many acres do you actually plant of your 300, would you say?
This is more of a grazing property, so we have about 150 acres that are grazed on the other side of the road up in the hills, and there's about 12 acres of really good flat prime soil here, but we're a small operation, and we're currently growing about 3 acres.
3 acres,
Of,
okay.
yeah, of organic vegetables, and also we have a small orchard.
Oh, you have an orchard as well?
Yeah, we
and what
do.
kind of orchard? Apples or?
Yeah, apples. My wife is from Germany, and she's really fond of a lot of very old apple trees, and she found someone in the States to find stock from some old heirloom trees. So she gets to eat what she ate as a little kid.
Now, your farm is unusual, and I believe you have a relationship with a nonprofit and work very closely
Yes.
with them. Will you tell us about that?
Yes, we're in a very unique position. We don't rely on the income of the farm. We have investment income. So we don't need the farm to be profitable per se. So what we've done is we've set it up sort of like a charity. And we work with 2 nonprofits, Abundant Grace Coastal Worker in Half Moon Bay, formerly the Catholic Worker House, and Puente in Pescadero. And what happens is about 80% of the food that we grow on this property, which ends up between about 20 and 25,000 pounds of food, which is a good amount of food, is actually donated to the low-income community of the coast side. And we work with those 2 organizations, and they distribute the food. And Abundant Grace Catholic Worker also received grant money, and what they're able to do is find individuals, many of them are homeless or transients who are moving through the area, and they bring them to the farm twice a week, and they work in the fields, and they weed, and they plant, and they harvest, and they're all paid a wage for doing that, and then they take the food away to distribute to other persons in need.
Wow, that's a fantastic program.
Thanks.
What kinds of things do you grow? I know you said you can't identify all the plants, but I'm sure
No,
off
I'm
the
not
top of
good
your
with
head you know
plants.
what you grow.
We have, well, it's the farms on the coast, given the climate and the soil, grow pretty much the same kinds of things. It's a diversified organic vegetables. We have about 40 to 50 different kinds of vegetables. You know, this climate loves all the leafy greens, all the lettuces and things, and chard and kale and root vegetables, artichokes, of course, Brussels sprouts. But it's quite a variety. And because it's so cool, it's a pretty long growing season. You don't have to worry about plants bolting as they often do in the summer in a warmer climate. So it's a great climate for quite a range of things.
Now I notice in the background some of the plants are covered in white material.
Yes.
What's that all about?
That's called rime. There are a number of plants, and when they're very young, they're very susceptible to predation by different kinds of insects. Cucumber beetles are one of the ones. And so you're just mechanically keeping them off the plants. The light goes through, the water, the drip irrigation is under that row, and so the plants are still irrigated. And when we need to harvest it, we just peel those back and harvest the plants. Some of the plants stay under the rime for much of the season, but some of them, once they've grown to a certain age and they have a little bit more strength, they can resist that predation, and then we would pull the rime off. But we're an organic farm. We use no chemical, pesticides, and therefore this is one of the ways in which we can manage pests without putting chemicals down on the plants.
So it sounds like you actually do know a lot about plants. You're not
I
giving
know
yourself
a little bit. Our
enough
farm
credit. Yeah, I
managers
would
know
say
a lot
so.
more.
Okay. So I believe I read that you do something in terms of a pick it yourself program.
Yes. As I mentioned, about 80% of the food is donated to the low-income community. The other 20% we sell through what we call the U-Pick Club. And this year, I believe we have about 45 or 50 families. And what they do is they sign up for the entire season, and they commit to coming at least 8 times over the course of the year. And on every Monday afternoon and early evening, people come to the different fields around the farm, and we just put a whiteboard up, and it says, okay, today you can take 3 romaine, you can take X amount of broccoli, you can take a pint of strawberries. And the people come and they just go into the fields themselves and harvest the food, and so it's as fresh as it gets.
There you go, right? Smart. So there's no income requirement for people to sign up for that. That's just anyone who has an interest and can get here? Or is
The U-Pick Club are people with disposable income.
Right.
They're paying,
Sure, right.
to
Okay,
come, but they only pay. They pay for the 8 visits, but we have about 26, 28 weeks. So if they want to come more often, it's just when they come, they give us money just for the times that they visit. And so it gives them the opportunity not only to learn a lot about the plants, because they're quite intimately involved in the fields, but they pick what they want. If they don't like broccoli, then they don't pick it and don't take it home. If they like kale, they take a lot of kale home.
Okay. Now, did we see a farm stand when we drove in? Is that an active farm stand that you operate? Or?
The farm stand, again, that's for the U-Pick members.
Okay.
And so what happens is, if you were a U-Pick member, you would come here on a Monday, you would go in the farm stand, you'd find crates, harvesting tools, tips for the day, and then certain vegetables that are more difficult to harvest, like potatoes, we harvest in the morning, and then we put it in the stand so the U-Pickers can take it. And then the other half of that building is called the Bike Hut. Tunitas Creek Road is a very popular road. It goes from the coast all the way over Skyline down into Woodside. So the bicyclists love it because they can ride with very little car traffic. And we have a little store open 24/7. They can stop in and make themselves coffee, tea, snacks, etc. So
nice.
it's a popular spot.
Is there anything you'd want to share with viewers that we haven't covered today? Anything about what you do, or it's certainly a wonderful thing that you do.
No, I'm just very happy that you're making the film and making people aware of different local farms and helping to support local farms. And as your slogan goes, getting food as fresh as it gets.
That's
and
right.
It's a wonderful concept, and we're very appreciative of the people who come and buy from us. And we don't think of the other farms like Pie and Blue House and Fifth Crow as competitors. We're all working together to try to. Yeah, we're trying to create a good food system so that people can get good, locally sourced, healthy food.
Well, what a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for hosting us today. We loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as you could see from that clip, Bill Laven and his wife are incredibly dedicated and really looking out for their community and producing some amazing food and allowing cattle to graze there as well. We do have another twist on a local business, people who are also passionate in creating their own product, who started small and have gone gangbusters. Let's take a look at Devil's Canyon Brewery in San Carlos.
Great.
We're here at the beautiful Devil's Canyon Brewery in San Carlos, and with the owners, Chris and Kristiann Garrett. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Thanks for coming.
So it's an amazing facility. Many people have already been here, some have not. Will you give us an idea of how long you've been here and what made you start Devil's Canyon?
We've been around for just over 15 years. It started as basically a project for fun. It was more of a hobby. And before we knew it, it was a full-fledged business.
Right.
And now it's 15 years later, and here we go.
Well, it's an enormous facility. So when you first started out, you didn't start in a large
It
facility
was like a
this, did you?
garage.
Okay.
It was tiny.
shoebox.
A shoebox, yeah.
Like Hewlett-Packard started, right?
Maybe smaller. Yeah. I was actually working in technology at the time and started it as literally a hobby and just it was like, okay, let's go make something of this. So
Wow.
we did.
And at what point did you take the step of putting this amazing facility together?
You know, it was in planning for about 4 years, and then it took us a year and a half to build it. And we're still iterating every day,
Sure.
always doing something.
So tell us about, you have so many beers, plus root beer, which I understand is your recipe, Kristiann.
Yes.
So tell us first about the beers. Are the beers your baby and the root beer is your baby? Is that how it works?
Yes, I guess so.
So why don't you tell us about that?
Recipe-wise, they're all
Okay.
our babies, I guess.
Okay. So why don't you tell us about the beers and what you have? You offer so many.
So we have roughly 4 core beers, and then everything else becomes a specialty or a seasonal. They're usually predicated based off of the seasons that we see historically, or some of the kind of the newer trends with IPAs and whatnot. We make a Scotch ale that is our flagship product. We've made it from the beginning, and it sells more than anything else.
Wow.
And it's kind of a shocker, though. You'd never think something that's dark and chocolatey and smoky would be kind of your lead product, but it has
Wow.
throughout. So.
What has the highest alcohol level of everything you sell?
Well, right now we have a triple IPA, and it's running about 14%.
Wow.
So yeah.
So more than wine, right? I mean, a lot
More than most wine, yeah.
More than most wines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the highest we've gone is about 18%. So,
Wow.
yeah, we have a barley wine that gets up there.
Nice.
So, but it's pretty high.
Taster size.
Yeah,
Okay.
taster size.
And so, Kristiann, what about the root beer? How did that come about?
That came about because we wanted something that we would feel okay with having our daughter drink. So we're not big fans of the sugary soda. So we created the root beer that has way less sugar, agave nectar, local honey, and
Nice.
it's something that doesn't have the corn syrup in it that we're comfortable letting our daughter drink every now and then.
So you mentioned local honey, and I think you mentioned off camera that you're all about sustainability. You want to tell us about that?
Sure. It's something that I've been practicing since I was a little kid. I grew up farming and ranching in New Mexico.
Wow.
And everything on our ranches and farms were things that were reutilized from elsewhere. For example, my grandfather during the Depression bought the roundhouse from the Santa Fe Railroad, and that's how we built all of our stuff, everything.
Wow.
And he had wind power and all that from the 40s. And so he was very much ahead of his time in that, but he instilled really kind of a way of life for me. And probably one of my fondest memories was driving down the road when I was a little kid, and he slams on the brakes. He backs up about 50 feet, reaches down outside of the truck, picks up a bolt and throws it behind the seat. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "This is what we do."
Wow.
And so we reuse everything. And
Never know
so,
when you're going to need it.
yeah. And so we've carried that same ethos throughout the history of our company. And we've always found a nice balance between in sustainability through the environment, economics, sound business practice, social equity, and community. And so we found that if you focused on any one, you really didn't satisfy all the needs. And we're balancing all three. And that's in every decision we make, it has a sustainable message. So,
That's great.
yeah.
So I know you have some interesting hours here. Normally, I believe you're open on Fridays. Will you explain about the hours, either of you?
We're open to the public every Friday starting at 4 o'clock, and we go till 10 or 11 every Friday. Family friendly, bring the dogs, bring the kids. We have live music, and it's just sort of a community party. People come with their family or they come alone, and it's a comfortable environment for everybody to come.
And there are food trucks on particular nights.
Every
They are every Friday.
Every Friday,
Yeah.
good, okay.
And otherwise, we're open for private events. So throughout the whole rest of the week, we're doing corporate events,
Weddings, bar
weddings,
mitzvahs.
everything.
You name it.
Right,
Oh,
everything.
yeah, everything.
Yeah.
So what is your capacity? You have this room, obviously, and we'll pan and show that shortly, and you have the beer garden. Of course, you have a stage. What do you think your capacity is? Does it, depending on
A lot.
standing, sitting?
It
Yeah,
does.
a lot
I
is
mean,
right, of course.
just the rough standing is over 645 in this room
Right.
alone. Overall, we can accommodate roughly about 2,000
Nice.
standing. Seated for like a dinner in here, 200. We can add additional seating in the other building. So we can put quite a few folks in here.
Great.
So it's a lot of fun.
And how did you two meet?
Oh,
We haven't been asked that for a while.
yeah. I went to a local college, and I currently sit on as one of the board of trustees for Menlo College. And I befriended her brother.
Oh, that old trick.
That old trick.
And he actually introduced us and said, "Don't touch my sister, don't go near her." Years later, though, she called and she had been running a bar in Prague and then in Costa Rica.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was it.
I was back in town. What are you doing?
Wow. So you both had the mixology background. You had the background in running a bar, right?
Oh, hers goes beyond that. She comes from multiple generations of Czech brewers.
Wow.
So they were the brewers of Pilsner Urquell for multiple generations. So
And that's why your emails have the special message at the end. Do you want
Yes.
to share
Zdraví.
that?
Na zdraví, which is cheers to your health in Czech.
Nice.
So it's in my blood.
yeah, in fact, her last name was Dienstbier, which means beer service.
Wow.
So it was sort of meant to be.
think
Though
Definitely.
neither one of us really thought this is where we'd be. He was in high tech and I was in education, and now we're using your technology in the beer industry and my education in the beer industry.
So are you working 7 days a week?
If there was
Pretty
an eighth,
much.
we would be
Yeah,
working
I bet
it.
you would. I bet you would, just like the
Yeah.
growers.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having us here. Let's take a walk around. Maybe you could show us the beer garden and we can look at the stage a little bit. And
Salud. To local beer
there you go.
Yeah, and root beer.
and root beer.
Cheers. Yeah.
So Kristiann, tell us where we are right now.
So this is our barrel room, and this is where my favorite stuff is. And yesterday I pulled a taster off of this one, which is our coconut porter, which we do have pouring in the tap room, but it has been aging since January on a rum barrel. And I took a taste yesterday, and it's so delicious.
Oh, nice.
It's just velvety goodness. It is so tasty.
nice.
So can't wait till it's carbonated and cold and can enjoy that. But we've got lots and lots of beers coming out of these barrels in the coming months.
And you said there's an interesting story about these chairs.
Oh yes, it just sort of goes along with our recycle sustainability ethos, and these are the benches from Bay Meadows, where my husband and I had our first date.
How romantic.
So when Bay Meadows came down, one of the many things we got from there.
So I know we talked a little bit about sustainability, but I didn't ask you about awards. I'm guessing with the amount you've done to remain sustainable, you have all kinds of awards.
Yeah, well, we were really lucky to get the Sustainable San Mateo County Award a couple of years ago, and we've been really supportive of them, and they've been really supportive of us, and it's been a great relationship with them, and awarded us for what we have been doing naturally for 15 years. And it was like, oh, I didn't know there was an award for this, but this is what we do. And then most recently, we just got the green certification through the county and then coming through the state as well. So
Nice.
it's something that's really important to us.
And I know we just looked at a new table in the other room that was wood from a house torn down in Menlo Park and metal from something on the Genentech campus when
Yes,
some things were
so-
dismantled. So that's pretty amazing.
We make incredible things from things that we come across, and my husband sort of made a name for himself that, didn't mean to, but, oh, well, this building is being demolished, and I know Chris Garrett, he knows how to do this,
Nice.
and he's professional about it, and we end up getting, things that we can use in the brew house and for our guests. For example, the booths in this room came from another brewery that we got a phone call on, said, hey, we need this stuff out of here. Okay, so Chris says, you and you grab that truck and that truck. We have a run to make, and they come back with these great booths. So our guests on Friday nights can sit down and enjoy themselves.
So one final thing we didn't talk about is people don't have to drink and drive. If they come here, there's an alternate way to get here.
Yeah.
You're not far from Caltrain.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of both San Carlos and Redwood City Caltrain, and it's either a 20-minute walk or a quick Uber ride. So
Perfect.
It's
Perfect.
centrally located.
Thank you so much. It's an amazing
Thank you.
facility.
Thank you.
So obviously, Chris, you've come a long way from garage beer. You have an incredible facility here. Why don't you tell us about it?
We built this facility about 4 years ago. We started building it, finished it probably about 2 years ago, and we're iterating every day, like I said earlier.
Sure.
But we're poised the systems to grow infinitely. So we can go from where we have capacity today, about 20,000 barrels to 40,000 barrels overnight.
Wow.
But that enables us to get the beer to market and to also serve the needs of other customers. We brew beer for other breweries in the Bay Area as well. And so that really helps.
Nice. So do you want to mention, I know there are a lot of questions I have to ask you, where can people find your beer?
Sure.
Which breweries? Where can they buy it on their own?
Uh-huh.
I had another question for you, but let's start with those
Yeah,
two.
no problem. So, and our beer is available here at the brewery always. So anyone can come in off the street and just buy beer to go any day of the week. We're open from 9 to 5. We are open to the public on Fridays though, and you can come have a pint, which is the best time to come, of course. We do fill growlers, and we have cans and bottles to go. Out in the marketplace, you'll see our stuff at Total Wine, Whole Foods, BevMo, Target, Costco, Safeway. So it's kind of out there, but it's also served on draft at a lot of the finer restaurants in the Bay Area. So
If a restaurant is watching and is interested, just contact you, right?
Please, absolutely.
That'd be great. And
We'd
then
love.
they're eligible for an award, as fresh as it gets.
That's right.
Award.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm sorry we don't have any samples for us today, but you get the idea. You can certainly go and visit. So before we wrap up, Jess, just can you tell us what the Farm Bureau does? How do you help people?
Well, the Farm Bureau has been around for many decades. Each county has an independent Farm Bureau, and it's a nonprofit organization. Because we have the name county in it, people get confused thinking it's a county agency.
We have the same issue.
But we're really an advocacy group. We promote agriculture in the area, and we also speak out on behalf of the farmers. We have a board of directors of farmers. They set policy, and so we try. Our goal is to help farmers do what they do, and that is farm.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the great work. It's a pleasure working with you always.
Same here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.